$70,000. In most American cities, that won't even cover a down payment. But somewhere out there, right now, there are actual homes with kitchens, with yards, with neighbors and morning light and a front door that belongs to you, and they're listed at $70,000. Today, I want to show you 5 of them. One sits near a massive fishing lake deep in East Texas. One is hidden in a tiny Minnesota town near the Canadian border. And one of them, honestly, feels like a second chance disguised as a small gray house beside Memphis. Some are peaceful, some are surprising. And at least one of these homes is probably going to completely change what you think $70,000 can still buy in America. These aren't perfect homes, but they're real. In a country where starter homes can cost $400,000 or $500,000, these places are still sitting there at $70,000. Let's go see them. Property number 1, $70,000, Brookland, Texas. This house feels like an old East Texas fishing weekend frozen in time. Not polished, not modern, but strangely comforting the longer you look at it. The first thing you notice is the wood. Warm paneling runs through almost every room, across the walls, the kitchen, even the ceilings, giving the whole place this cozy cabin atmosphere that somehow feels consistent instead of overwhelming. The living room is probably the strongest space in the house. Large windows bring in soft, natural light. Exposed ceiling beams add character. And the built-in shelving makes the room feel lived in instead of empty. Then you move into the kitchen. It's compact, but there's enough cabinetry and counter space that it feels functional instead of cramped. And because the kitchen flows directly into the dining and living areas, the entire home feels more open than you'd expect from a small, older mobile home. But the feature that really changes the mood of the property is the screened porch. It stretches along the side of the house with enough room for chairs, grilling, relaxing, or just sitting outside while the trees move in the background. And location-wise, that lake lifestyle is exactly what this property revolves around. The house sits near Lake Sam Rayburn, one of the biggest fishing and boating lakes in Texas, close to marinas, boat ramps, and small resort communities scattered through the woods. So even though the property itself feels quiet and tucked away, you're still connected to an active lake culture. The bedrooms continue that same cabin feeling. Simple layouts, soft carpeting, older finishes that feel more nostalgic than abandoned. Outside, there's covered parking, a storage shed, and enough trees surrounding the property that it feels naturally private without becoming isolated. And honestly, for $70,000, this doesn't feel like a total fixer-upper. It feels like somebody's long-time weekend escape that simply stayed frozen in another era. Of course, for somebody looking for an affordable lake area retreat in Texas, there's actually a surprising amount of charm here. That one felt quiet and nostalgic. The next one feels much more like everyday America. Property number 2, $70,000, Lawton, Oklahoma. This one feels different immediately. Just a simple house sitting quietly in Lawton, Oklahoma, with a small covered porch, a single-car garage, and a front yard that looks like it's seen decades of ordinary life pass by. And honestly, that's probably what makes it interesting. Inside, the home feels more open than you'd expect for the price. Dark wood-style flooring runs through the living room, large windows pull in natural light, and the layout feels practical in a very straightforward kind of way. You can tell the house was updated just enough to feel functional without completely erasing its age. The bedrooms are clean, quiet, and empty in a way that almost invites imagination. Neutral walls, ceiling fans overhead, rooms that feel ready for somebody starting over, And outside, the backyard is larger than expected, with enough room to actually breathe a little. That matters more than people think. Location matters too. Lawton sits near Fort Sill in southwestern Oklahoma, surrounded by wide open plains and within driving distance of the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. One of the most unexpectedly beautiful landscapes in the state, so while this isn't a flashy property, it sits inside a very real version of affordable America that's slowly disappearing. That's the value here. Not luxury, not land, not fantasy. Just a clean, functional house with space to breathe for around $70,000. This house starts making a surprising amount of sense. Okay, 2 homes in. Now, let's go somewhere cold. Very cold. Property number 3, $70,000, Strandquist, Minnesota. This one feels different almost immediately, not because the house is flashy, but because everything around it feels quiet in a very northern Midwest kind of way. Tall, evergreen trees, wide open sky, long shadows across the lawn, and sitting there on a large corner lot in Strandquist, Minnesota. A modest home with a huge green detached garage that honestly steals the first impression. Because out here, that garage means something. Snowmobiles, tools, long winters, maybe even a place to disappear for a few peaceful hours when the world gets loud. Inside, the house feels surprisingly refreshed for this price point. The kitchen has this bold black and white cabinet style that gives the home actual personality, and sunlight pours through the dining area windows, looking out toward the yard and garage. Then you move into the living room. Dark ceiling, soft light, wide open layout. It doesn't feel luxurious, but it feels calm. Like somebody slowly rebuilt this place to make daily life simpler. The bathrooms are clean and updated enough that you wouldn't immediately start planning expensive renovations, and the bedrooms carry that same practical energy throughout the home. Outside is where the lifestyle really starts revealing itself. Nearly half an acre, mature trees, long stretches of open sky. For retirees, remote workers, or somebody completely burned out by expensive suburban living, this property starts making emotional sense very quickly. A clean home, a massive garage, a quiet town most Americans have never heard of, and somehow it's still only $70,000. From the edge of Minnesota, let's head south toward the Mississippi River. Property number 4, $70,000, East Alton, Illinois. This house feels practical in the most honest way possible. Just a small 2-bedroom home, sitting quietly on a corner lot in East Alton, Illinois. Fenced yard, little front porch, simple gravel driveway. And for $70,000, that simplicity becomes the story. From above, the property feels manageable in a strangely comforting kind of way. Enough outdoor space for pets, gardening, or simply sitting outside without feeling crowded by neighbors. Inside, the home feels brighter than expected. Soft carpeting, white walls, ceiling fans, and large windows make the living room feel open and calm without needing expensive upgrades. The kitchen keeps that same energy going. Simple wood cabinets, open floor space, room for a small dining table near the back door. Not flashy, just functional. And throughout the bedrooms, everything continues feeling clean, straightforward, and livable. That's really the identity of this property. Livable. Location-wise, East Alton sits near the St. Louis metro region, which gives this home something many cheap rural houses don't have: access. You're still connected to jobs, healthcare, stores, and city infrastructure while paying a fraction of what similar homes cost closer to larger cities. And now we come to the last one. This is the property I kept thinking about afterward, not because it's the biggest, because of what it represents. Property number 5, $70,000, West Memphis, Arkansas. This house almost feels like it's trying to stand out. Gray siding, bright yellow trim, black security bars across the windows, and sitting there in West Memphis, Arkansas, just across the river from Memphis, it feels like one of those homes built for somebody trying to restart life without spending $500,000 to do it. Inside, the place feels surprisingly clean and ready to move into immediately. Fresh carpet softens the living room, neutral gray walls calm the space down, and the entire house feels more updated than the exterior first suggests. The kitchen leans practical more than charming. Dark cabinets, wide tile flooring, enough space that you could move in first and slowly figure everything else out later. And honestly, at this price point, that matters. One feature that quietly changes the feeling of the property is the enclosed sunroom off the back. Light pours through all those windows, creating this narrow little transition space between indoors and outdoors. You can instantly picture somebody drinking coffee there while the neighborhood slowly wakes up outside. Then, out back, things open up even more. There's a fenced yard, a detached outbuilding, and enough room for pets, storage, or weekend projects without the property feeling overwhelming to maintain. And that's where this listing becomes interesting, because West Memphis sits in this strange position between affordability and urban proximity. You're minutes from the Mississippi River, major trucking routes, warehouses, rail lines, and the entire Memphis metro economy. That creates opportunity. 5 homes, 5 completely different versions of affordable America. And honestly, that's what stayed with me. Because while most of the country keeps talking about impossible housing prices, there are still places where ownership feels reachable, not glamorous places, not trendy places, quiet towns, slower towns, sometimes forgotten towns, but places where somebody could still realistically buy a home without spending the next 30 years drowning in debt. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. The affordable parts of America are still out there. Most people just stopped looking. So now I'm curious. Which one of these homes could you actually picture yourself living in? And which one was an immediate no? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more hidden homes, overlooked towns, and strange little corners of America that most people never see, subscribe. There's a lot more out there